It is April, and the bass are on the move. They're moving up shallow. They're either pre-spawn or they're spawning. Some of them might be post-spawn, but these are the 5 baits that are a must-have in the month of April. So this month, the water is warming up. Fish are moving up shallow and thinking about spawning. The males tend to get to the shallows first. They get really aggressive as they're making beds, and the females will stay a little bit deeper, cruising around, waiting for the temperature and the conditions to get exactly right before they move up to spawn. And so these are the 5 baits that I'm gonna have tied on this time of the month in order to maximize my my success. So before we introduce this first one, I just want to let you guys know that all the links to all of these baits, rods, reels, everything else is down in the description. So if you want to go check out what I'm using exactly, go click on them. Yes, they're my affiliate links, and my gosh, the wind's blowing on Guntersville. All right, so I had to move around here to the other side of my truck and get out of the wind. Of course, all the bugs are doing the same thing, so there's a lot of bugs on this side of my truck. But anyway, the first one is going to be a Squarebill because I'm pulling up into pockets, I'm running the bank, I'm trying to find a concentration of bass in an area. Now the places I'm looking though is I'm looking for these pockets that have like what I call dead water. There's no water running into the back of them, anything like that. I'm also looking for backs of creeks and little bitty flat spots or flat areas on the backs of creeks, and even main lake pockets will be good this time of the year. But I'm throwing a Squarebill. This is a 6-cent Squarebill. My favorite springtime color. Can't remember what this is called. I call it citrus shad, but it's a little bit different than a citrus shad, but some type of a bluegill looking, something that's bright, a little bit more offensive. These males are up shallow looking for bedding areas, and they're making beds, and they're pretty aggressive. The females are typically a little bit deeper or off on the next drop, and they're cruising, waiting for the conditions to get right to move up to spawn. And so I'm gonna throw a Squarebill all along the bank and try to bump into cover and really try to just find a concentration of them. The rod I'm throwing it on, this is a Cast King, a soggy. It's the I'm Cranky rod, and I'm throwing it on an MG12, which is it says it's a 5-to-1 gear ratio reel, but with the size spool and stuff like that, I like it because it's about a 6.8, 6.9 to 1, so you're reeling fairly slow. 12 to 15-pound test cigar fluorocarbon, and the reason I'm using that heavy a line for a Squarebill is because I'm going to be getting it into cover, catching big ones, and just really don't want to risk losing a bait and losing a fish when I'm aggressively fishing a Squarebill. Second one is one, you know, the fish are shallow and aggressive, and every time that they're shallow and aggressive, I'm going to be throwing some type of a topwater. And the kind of cover and things like that the bass get into to spawn, it's going to require something you can get in there and not get hung up. So, of course, it's a frog. Now, this is a JDM frog, and I know they sell on Tackle Warehouse. Like I said, the link's going to be down in the description. This is a Spro frog in one of my favorite springtime colors called Red Ear, I think it's what it's called. I'm throwing them both on heavy 50-pound to 65-pound Seaguar braid. Got them on Cast King reels. One is a Mega Jaws and one is a Speed Demon. Both 8 speed gear ratios, and the rods I've got them on, this one right here, the white one, that's an Asagi rivet rod, which is a really good frog rod, and then this is a Spirali, and it is their heavy 7'6" heavy Spirali rod. And so it's beefy equipment. I mean, you're turning these fish, you're getting them out of cover, you're trying not to break them off, and even 20-pound fluorocarbon can get broken off when you're aggressively trying to get a big fish out of the thick cover, and there is nothing like catching a fish on a frog. Number 3 is the last search bait. These lakes like Guntersville that have a lot of grass and things like that, you really want to be able to get a search bait through that grass, and that Squarebill is just not going to cut it. So my favorite bait to fish grass, and you know, you get that shallow 2-3 foot grass that has holes and clumps in it, or holes in it, they're going to spawn in those holes. And so I'm going to be throwing some type of a bladed jig. This right here is the Evo, the Z-Man Evo. Actually, it's one of my favorite colors. Again, it's almost like that Squarebill color. Chartreuse on the bottom, it's green pumpkin. This is the Evo. I've got it on, I've got the trailer is their Minnows trailer, and it's got, I think that is called Hot Snakes is the color. It's a matching color for that bladed jig. You look at the blade though, the blade comes gold. I color it with a Sharpie. I blacken it out. That's a little trick I do. I don't want a lot of shine and flash. I want it to surprise them and hit them in the head and get them to bite. Now I'm going to throw it on a fairly heavy rod. Okay, so this is the Speed Demon swim bait 7'6" from Cast King. And I'm using the new, oh, what is this reel called? This is the Royal Legend reel. And it is it's a great reel. For the price, it's under $100. You can't beat this son of a gun. But it's an 11 ball bearing reel, it's an 8-speed reel, and it really does work well. No, it's a 7-speed reel. It really works well with a chatterbait. 12 to 15 pound test Seaguar fluorocarbon, you can't beat it. So now you find an area that's got a ton of fish in it or has a concentration of fish, and you want to slow down and pick it apart. And so some of my best, the last two are some of my best rigs for catching giants and catching numbers in those spawning areas. And the first one is going to be a Wacky Rig. And I know those of you who have been following me a long time know I would rather watch paint dry than to fish a Wacky Rig. But this time of the year, you can cover water really fast. They're super shallow, and you can't beat the good old trick stick, the little Wacky Rig. So there's tons of different types of Cinco style baits. I'm gonna put a few of them down in the description, but let's talk about the rod, the reel, and the equipment that I'm using. This is a Mega Jaws spinning reel. It's a 2,000 or 3,000 size reel, and then I pair it with, you notice my main line is Seaguar Ghost Gray braid. This is 20 pound test braid, and then I have a leader. I have a heavy leader. This time of the year, I'm getting them out of thick cover, so I've got a 12 pound leader from Seaguar, and they've actually got a new leader material that I'm using. Let me get it over off of my tire. This is some Pounce, 12 pound. It's for bass fishing leader material, and this is what I use, and it's really, really high quality fluorocarbon. The rod's gonna be a medium heavy, fast rod. This is a Speed Demon jig and worm rod, 7'3" jig and worm rod, but it's gonna be a medium heavy, fast, or a medium heavy spinning rod is what it's gonna be. The hooks, so there's one hook that I use. Matter of fact, let's pull this off of here. And this is hard to do while holding the rod or holding the camera. But, so I want you to see how I got this rigged up. I've got a VMC, this is a weedless Nico rig hook, and that's what I use to Wacky Rig. I want enough bite, I don't want to lose hardly any fish, and I want a good beefy hook. And then with that, I've got this little ring, and this is a VMC Wacky ring, and what's really cool about this one is that it comes with a little tool, and you use the tool to open up the ring, you slide the worm over top of it, and then it's got these two little holes. One goes one way, one goes the other direction, so one you use for Wacky rigging, and the other one you use for Nico rigging, and you can't beat it. It's such a good ring, and your baits last forever. And so that's one of the key things that I figured out over the last couple of years. You know, I used to do heat shrink, I used to do a bunch of things that took a whole lot of time. This really does reduce the amount of time that it takes to rig that sucker up. So the last but not least is one that if you see them spawning, you can catch them on. I've got two different ways. Let me put it this way. I've got two different ways that I fish it. So I've got two different rigs for this, but it's a Texas rigged lizard, and I love the Zoom monster lizard, but a 6 or 7 or 8 inch lizard is just fine. I just like the big one because it tends to intimidate them more when they're on the beds, stuff like that. I've got it with a 5/16 sinker and a straight shanked worm hook. This is a Gamakatsu worm hook, 20 pound test fluorocarbon on a heavy 7'10" heavy rod. This is a soggy punch out rod. Okay, and this is what I'm going to be flipping into beds. This is what I'm going to be working in beds. I want to be able to muscle fish out of cover and stuff like that with it. But that's one way I'm going to fish a lizard, is just flipping it into cover and dragging it through thick stuff and things like that. Now, the second one is a more finesse style. Okay, still have it on a heavy rod, so because I'm still fishing the same types of areas. So this is it's a medium heavy 7-foot Spirale, Cast King Spirale, and I've got it on an 8-speed Mega Jaws reel, 20 pound test fluorocarbon. But I want you to look at that sinker. That's just a 1/4 ounce sinker is all that is. I'll go 1/8, I'll go 1/4, and I've got a good beefy hook on it, straight shank Gamakatsu hook again. And the reason I've got such a lightweight, this one I'm going to cast out through the grass or to the thick stuff, and I'm going to slowly reel that lizard back to me. I'm gonna have it coming through cover. I'm gonna have it a little bit off the bottom, but it's just a slow retrieve. And that slow retrieve is, I mean, you're talking about covering water thoroughly. That retrieve with all those little tentacles and all those, you know, the legs and the tail of that lizard swimming, they're gonna bite it. And that's where I catch most of my big ones, when I'm in a spawning flats, perhaps, so I'm in one that I can't see the beds and stuff like that. Just swimming that lizard through cover and through grass and things like that, it really does work well. So those are the 5 baits and rigs that I'm gonna have for the month of April. You guys get out there and enjoy the day, enjoy this time of the year when the fish are moving up shallow and getting ready to spawn. Just remember, catch and release, bro. When you catch them big females that are spawning, take a picture, be pretty, don't put them in your live well and roll them around all day long so you can get a picture of double-fisted giants. Put them back in and let them spawn. So, but like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel, let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out in the water, go out and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.